Rodrygo Goes, is the Brazilian star overrated or underrated? Rodrygo joined the club in 2019 for 45 million euros. He's now 24 years old. He's played 172 matches and he has 32 goals to his name. Has he lived up to expectations? Once again, let's take a look at the statistics. We'll reference Rodrygo's last three seasons, starting with the 22-23 season, in which he formed the attack with Vini, Benzema, and himself on the right wing. He ended the season his best ever with 17 goals and assists. Following season, the 23-24, was when we had the Vini, Rodrygo, and Jude Bellingham attacking trio. He ended that season with 15 goals and assists, and starting off last season, his worst season yet, where he was sharing the spotlight with Vini, Mbappe, and Bellingham. He ended with only 11 goals and assists for the whole season, and that was a total of 1,938 minutes. Now let's dive a little bit deeper. Of course, in the 22-23 season, he had his best season yet. He was forming that trio with Vini and Benzema, and it was one of our most successful seasons. That season, Rodrygo Goes saw a total of 2,381 minutes with an expected goal ratio of 13.47 and expected assists of 6.2. So he did overcome the expected assist ratio, but he did perform under for the expected goals. The 23-24 season was another massive season. That season was also successful for the club. Rodrygo was relatively fit for the season. He saw a total of 2,391 minutes, and he was sharing the spotlight with Vini and Bellingham. All three attackers performed phenomenally. That seemed like a great long-term project, but there's something that needs to be looked at in Rodrygo's purple patch. 23-24 season looks absolutely great on paper. Rodrygo saw a total of 2,391 minutes. He ended the season with 15 goals and assists, totaling up to 10 goals and 5 assists. However, once we break down his performance month over month, we'll notice that between August to December of the 23-24 season, he gained 7 goals. And if we look at the second half of the season, he only ended with 10 goals. Now, for a Real Madrid starting right wing, those are not the standards that we need, especially going into the decisive phases of the league, Champions League, and Copa del Rey. Having said that, let's give Rodrygo the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume it was just a one-off season in which he performed the first half and didn't perform quite as well in the second half. And let's look at the 24-25 season. Now, I would like to mention that the 24-25 season was not the best in terms of the team performance, but two, Rodrygo did have a slightly different role, playing more of a right mid role and focusing on some defensive duties and not attacking the box so directly. Having said that, we'll still break down the performance in the first half of the season, August through December, and the second half of the season, January through May. Rodrygo Goes ended the 24-25 season with 6 goals and 5 assists. Well, if you break it down, between August through December, he had 6 goals and 4 assists, meaning in the second half of the season, he essentially only generated 1 assist. He had 1 goal in the whole 2025. In fact, he went over 3 months with no goal for both club and country. Of course, his position with the Brazil national team was different, and the tactical approach was different than Real Madrid. So was there more to his underperforming standards? Now, there's no official news about this, but it seems Rodrygo did have some issues with sharing the spotlight constantly with Vini, Mbappe, and Jude Bellingham. I don't want to say it was all an issue on his ego, but there were some concerns and some media attention, which even resulted in Jude Bellingham reposting a marca portada that excluded Rodrygo Goes. And in that post, Jude Bellingham said, "Only the fools forget the R," in reference to Rodrygo. This in itself shows that there were some conversations in the dressing room about Rodrygo's unhappiness with sharing the spotlight. Now, if you guys recall, Rodrygo essentially did not play for the last month of the La Liga competition. In fact, His last appearance came against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey final, in which he was substituted in the 45th minute. Now, there have been rumors that Rodrygo was significantly unhappy with that substitution. It definitely was odd that he did not play a single minute after that game, but two, that there was absolutely no comunicado oficial from the Real Madrid team on his potential injury. As a matter of fact, Real Madrid did have one training session open to the news outlets towards the end of the season. Rodrygo Goes went out to the training session, trained and stretched for 10 minutes before heading over to the lockers. And I think we can all agree that 3 to 4 seasons ago, we had absolutely top expectations for Rodrygo Goes to perform at the very top level. But as I mentioned, the previous 2 seasons, he significantly underperformed for the second half of the season. And for a Real Madrid starting attacker, that is simply unacceptable. I think we all had high expectations for Rodrygo based on his previous seasons, especially Benzema's last season. You know, that comeback against Manchester City, put a lot of money on Rodrygo. It seemed he was finally getting that consistency that we demand from all Real Madrid starters, and we had high expectations for the following season. Now, he didn't necessarily underperform if you look at the season holistically, but as we break it down month by month, first half of the season versus second half of the season, you can see there's a huge disparity in numbers. And again, that's not acceptable in a Real Madrid attacker. You have players like Vinicius Jr., like Cristiano Ronaldo in the past, Benzema, Gareth Bale, etc., that all had great numbers but performed consistently and in the top matches where they were needed. One of the worst matches that Rodrygo Goes had last season was the first leg versus Arsenal. And to be fair, that was one of Real Madrid's worst matches in general. But I think this match is a perfect example of what the total issue was last season. And I think it was a mixture of one, Rodrygo Goes being unhappy and not performing to his level, and two, Ancelotti's tactics, which limited his ability to perform on the pitch. So if you remember first leg against Arsenal last season, we came out with the same 4-3-3 formation where we defended in a 4-4-2 with Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. up top, Rodrygo slotting in that right mid role. And his plan in attack was quite clear and easy to stop. Rodrygo's role was to remain on the right-hand side to provide width for the team in attack and remain on the right-hand side to help defend against Martin Lewis Skelly. Well, the issue here was that Martin Lewis Skelly was playing that false back role to absolute perfection, and we had Declan Rice pinching to the left, right behind Rodrygo, and capitalizing on that space there. Now, it was a mixture of both Rodrygo and Ancelotti having absolutely no reaction to this. These spaces were constantly capitalized by both Martin Lewis Skelly and Declan Rice, and that created a lot of issues. The second match that perfectly showcases Rodrygo Goes' low level last season and Ancelotti's lackluster tactics is the first half against Barcelona in that Copa del Rey loss. As a matter of fact, Barcelona was actually playing their backup left back in Gerard Martin, who was in the second division last season. And even with Gerard Martin on the pitch, Rodrygo Goes was unable to complete one successful dribble. And of course, we all know Rodrygo's best role is on the left-hand side, playing that left wing. It's actually where he got the majority of his goals last season and the previous season. But let's face it, he's absolutely not taking Vinicius Jr.'s position. Vinicius Jr. was already the Ballon d'Oro runner-up. He's already contributed significantly to this team's success. But most importantly, he has Florentino Perez backing him up to be the co-star along with Kylian Mbappe. There is no way Rodrygo Goes takes his role in this team, and that presents an issue. Should Rodrygo Goes leave Real Madrid, or should he stay and accommodate and be consistent on the right wing position? And ultimately, I think Rodrygo Goes will decide to leave to a team where he can shine consistently on that left wing and perform to the top of his ability. We all know it. He has the ability to be a top talent. The only and major issue is consistency, and that's something that I've been asking and demanding from Rodrygo for the previous few seasons. So there you have it. Rodrygo Goes, overrated or underrated? Well, the answer is a little complex. I think he was substantially underrated in his first 3 to 4 seasons. Last 2 seasons, especially after that Manchester City performance, I think we all expected a different level from Rodrygo. We saw what he was capable of. He absolutely turned it around in the Champions League every single time. The previous 2 seasons just showcased that his consistency is a lot more than his technical ability. As I covered in a previous video, I also think Xabi Alonso will shift away from a 3 attacker formation and he will shift to a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2 with an attacking mid that helps defend a little bit more consistently and compact. And this, I think, is going to be a substantial turning point for Rodrygo Goes on his future and what he decides to do. What club do I see Rodrygo succeeding in? I think Rodrygo would see a lot of success in Manchester City, PSG, or even Liverpool. But will any of these clubs make the move and pay the substantial fee that Real Madrid would ask for Rodrygo Goes? There's been rumors that Real Madrid would not let him go unless he comes in with an offer over 70 million euros. Real Madrid has been very active in the transfer market this season, and this is another reason why I think Rodrygo will leave. Real Madrid needs to bring in some income to help fund the moves that we're making this summer.